Ralph Waite was earning $10,000 a week by 1977. He told a People magazine reporter that the salary was, in his exact word, obscene. The actor who played his oldest son had walked off the show that same year because he could not stand to be John Boy for one more contract cycle. The 7 kids around the dinner table had each signed 6-year contracts as children. Flat fees per episode, no adjustment for the show being a hit, no residuals worth the postage when streaming arrived. The Waltons made hundreds of millions for CBS. 4 of the cast are dead. The rest are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. This is what the show cost them. The first name on this list is the actor that opening just described. Richard Thomas played John Boy Walton, the aspiring writer with the notebook, the birthmark on his left cheek, the voice that closed every episode by saying goodnight to his brothers and sisters in the dark. He was 21 years old when the show began, the audience surrogate, the older brother every kid watching at home wished they had. He won the 1973 Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series at age 22. By every metric the industry uses to rank a young dramatic actor, he was rising. Then, in March of 1977, he walked. The reason was that he could feel John Boy fusing onto him. He told Page Six the math directly. I had been in the show for 5 years. It was going to take at least 5 years to do enough work to start to balance the scales. He had left Columbia in his junior year and never finished the degree. After the show, he rebuilt his career through Broadway and miniseries. 4 years on FX's The Americans, Atticus Finch on the 2022 to 2024 national tour of To Kill a Mockingbird. As of April 2026, he is 74 and on stage in New York. The most quoted thing he has ever said about the show came in 2017. They will say John Boy dies in the news when I am gone, he told Closer Weekly, and that is fine with me. That is the price he made his peace with. The character he created at 21 will be in the headline of his obituary, no matter what else he does between now and then. He left at 25 because he understood that. Number 2 on this list did not survive his 6th season. Will Geer played Grandpa Zebulon Walton, the white-haired patriarch who taught the children the names of the trees, the warmest single presence on the show. Audiences who only saw him in this part missed an entire prior life. A master's degree in botany from Columbia. A Broadway career going back to the 1920s. An album recorded with Woody Guthrie. What the show was really doing was rehabilitating him. Geer had been blacklisted in Hollywood in the early 1950s after refusing to name names before the House Un-American Activities Committee. The blacklist took roughly a decade out of his prime. He survived it by founding the Will Geer Theatricum Botanicum in Topanga, California. The Walton role, taken at 70, was the first significant starring credit he had been allowed in 20 years. He died on April 22, 1978, of respiratory failure, age 76. He had wrapped season 6 weeks earlier. The producers refused to recast. They wrote his death into the season 7 premiere instead, opening on the Walton family standing around a freshly placed gravestone marked Zebulon Walton, 1865 to 1941. As his family later told the New York Times, his children sang folk songs he had written with Woody Guthrie and recited Frost at his bedside. His ashes are buried in the Shakespeare Garden at the Theatricum, under plants he had taught his children to call by their Latin names. His last public statement about the show came at the 1977 Emmys, 6 months before his death. When you get to this age, you appreciate things, he said. The audience watching season 7 6 months later saw the Walton family weep at his graveside without knowing the actor playing the patriarch was already in the Groose. The third heaviest cost on this list arrived in November of 1976, when Ellen Corby did not show up for work. She had been playing Esther, Grandma Walton, for 4 years. Audiences knew her as the flinty, prayerful matriarch who never smiled when a frown would do. The woman who could shake a wooden spoon at a grandchild and have them apologize before the spoon stopped moving. She had won 3 Emmys for the role. She was 65 years old. Will Geer was the one who realized she was late. He drove with the producers to her house. She had suffered a massive stroke at home overnight. The stroke severely impaired her speech and limited her mobility for the rest of her life. She missed a season and a half. When she came back for the season 6 finale, Grandma Comes Home, her character had been written as also recovering from a stroke. Because she was, her dialogue was reduced to 1 or 2 words at a time. That was the maximum she could deliver. Her Pearl Harbor scene, when Esther tells the family how to respond to the Japanese attack, has her saying 3 words. Pray, pray, pray. 3 was the maximum. Judy Norton observed at the time that bringing a stroke victim back to a network television series was almost without precedent. Michael Learned drove her to the motion picture and television country house regularly. Learned has said it was she who eventually drove Corby there for the last time. Corby died on April 14, 1999, age 87. Audiences watching Grandma Comes Home thought they were watching a great actress play a stroke victim. The viewer at home in 1978 was watching a great actress fight her own face on camera in front of millions of people, while the family she had built around that face for the last 6 years held themselves together long enough to get the scene. Number 4 is Mary Elizabeth McDonough, who played Erin Walton, the middle daughter, pretty, soft-voiced, the one whose teenage romances drove a third of the episodes. Erin was written as the family beauty, in the dialogue, in the camera angles, in the scripts. The girl playing her was 11 when the show began. By the time she was 13, a wardrobe assistant on the set was asking her in those words, "Well, do you think you could fit in the clothes from last season, or have you gained more weight?" Producers, by her own account, hinted she was too fat to play the boy-crazy teen. She has said in her memoir, Lessons from the Mountain, "Erin was supposed to be the pretty one, so there was a lot of pressure for me to look a certain way and weigh a certain amount." She developed restrictive eating habits before her 14th birthday. When the show ended in 1981, the wholesome Walton girl was unfashionable. She could not get adult roles. At 24, frustrated, she got silicone breast implants, having been told by her surgeon that they were safe and would last a lifetime. The implants ruptured. They disintegrated in her chest. She spent the next 10 years getting sicker, chronic muscle pain, hair loss, recurring flu-like symptoms, without knowing why. She had the implants removed in 1994. In 1996, at 35, she was diagnosed with lupus. She has said publicly she believes the leaking silicone caused it. In her own words on Fox News, "I was a very, very healthy girl. I got implants, I got sick. I had them for 10 years. I got them out and I started to get better. And I am in remission from lupus, so you do the math." She joined the Dow Silicones class action. The settlement was largely depleted because Dow filed Chapter 11. She is 64 now. The audience watched the wholesome middle Walton daughter brush her hair in the bedroom mirror. The girl playing her was, in real life, 13 years old, refusing food in the trailer between scenes because someone in the wardrobe department had told her she did not fit last season's clothes. Every cost that came later, the implants, the silicone, the lupus, the lawsuit, was downstream of that wardrobe trailer. If a wardrobe assistant telling a 13-year-old girl on the set of a family show that her body was a problem makes you angry, drop a single word in the comments below. The next video on this channel goes deeper. Number 5 is the man earning that obscene salary in the opening. Ralph Waite played John Walton Sr., the father, the moral spine, the broad-shouldered patriarch who taught his sons to work and his daughters they were worth listening to. TV Guide later ranked him the 3rd greatest TV dad of all time. Before the show, Waite was a Marine Corps veteran, a Yale Divinity School graduate, and an ordained minister who had served 3 local parishes before leaving the ministry. He had also lost his 9-year-old daughter Sharon to leukemia in 1964, and his drinking had begun the day she died. By the time he was cast as John Walton in 1972, he was an active alcoholic. He stayed an active alcoholic through the early seasons. Years later, he told his co-star Judy Norton the moment he decided to get sober. He had been sitting at the Walton kitchen table during a scene. "I sat there one day at the kitchen table with all you kids and I felt like such a fake," he said. He took himself to AA. He spent the rest of his life sober. After Sharon's death and the divorce that followed, he had moved to Los Angeles in 1966 at age 38, leaving his 2 surviving daughters with their mother in New York. By the time the cameras were rolling on Walton's mountain, he was 3,000 miles from his own children, playing a perfect father to 7 of someone else's. Michael Learned, his on-screen wife, has said directly, "I was drinking heavily when the show started and Ralph saved my life, really." That sentence describes two recovering alcoholics propping each other up between takes of a show about American family virtue. He died of pneumonia complications on February 13, 2014, age 85. Richard Thomas, on hearing of his death, "He was a kind and funny man with a great social consciousness and a big heart, and one of the most uncompromisingly honest men and actors I have ever known." Goodnight, Daddy. Sixth on this list, played the most idealized mother in 1970s American television. Michael Learned won 3 Emmys for Olivia Walton, tying Tyne Daly for the most outstanding lead actress wins in drama series history. Children whose own parents were divorcing in those years watched her on Thursday nights and pretended she was theirs. She was 33, divorcing her first husband, raising 3 sons alone, drinking too much to fall asleep, being driven to set in limousines for the first time in her life. She had married the actor Peter Donat at 17 in 1956 and divorced him in 1972, the year The Waltons premiered. By 32, she had realized she was an alcoholic. She has been sober since 1977. 3 more marriages followed Donat. In a 2017 interview, she disclosed that during one of those relationships, with a partner she would not name, she had been physically abused. She left after the partner choked her, at which point she has said she could no longer turn the other cheek. The producers wrote her exit from the show as tuberculosis and a sanatorium in Arizona. She won her 4th Emmy a year later for the title role in Nurse. She is now 87. The widest sentence she has spoken about the show came to Smashing Interviews magazine. "I had 3 kids to support. I was going through a divorce. I was not doing well emotionally. I was drinking way too much. All the things you do when you are in extreme psychological distress." That is the woman who walked onto the soundstage every morning and held 7 children in her arms for the camera. The next name on this porch spent 172 episodes behind the counter of the Jefferson County General Store. Joe Conley played Ike Godsey, postmaster, storekeeper, gossip. He appeared in every season of the original series and every reunion film. After 1981, his acting work outside the Walton reunion films was minimal. He spent his last years in a care facility in Southern California, suffering from dementia. He died on July 7, 2013, in Thousand Oaks, age 85. The character Conley played held the names and stories of every villager in his head. He ended his life unable to reliably hold his own. Subscribe to this channel if you grew up watching the Goodnight scene. Every video here is the same investigation. What the people you remember actually paid for the work you remember. Coming in at 8 is the eldest Walton daughter. Judy Norton played Mary Ellen, tomboy, athlete, future nurse. The audience watched her grow from 14 to 23 on screen, including her 19-year-old wedding to Kurt Willard. When the show ended in 1981, no casting director would let her be anyone but Mary Ellen. The only place that would take her was theater, because Hollywood saw nothing but the character. In 1985, at 27, frustrated by typecasting and pushed by her management team, she posed nude for the August issue of Playboy. Her representatives told her it would be, in their phrase, a good positive career move. It was not. In her own words to the New York Post, "I think it was one of those things that, had I known it would never go away, that everybody who ever did an interview with me would bring it up again, I probably would have said it is not worth the trouble." She has been answering questions about that one decision for the past 40 years. She is 68 as of April 2026. On screen, she was the strong-shouldered tomboy on the porch. The same person, 10 years later, posed naked for a magazine because no one in Hollywood would let her be anyone other than that strong-shouldered tomboy on the porch. The actor at number 9 drove a parcel delivery truck past the studio that had filmed The Waltons. Eric Scott played Ben, the middle son, the schemer, the brother always rescued by his father or by Jim Bob. He appeared in all 221 episodes. After 1981, his acting work effectively stopped. To pay rent, he took a job as a messenger, His roots sometimes brought him past the studio that had filmed the show. In his words, it was a tough one to swallow. He worked his way up and eventually bought the company. As of April 2026, he runs Chase Messengers in Encino, and his post-acting career has lasted twice as long as his acting career did. To Closer Weekly. We did not get rich from that show. We were loved by the public, but we never felt the studio appreciated us. He also lost his second wife, Teresa Fargo, to leukemia on November 5, 1992. Teresa had developed the disease during her pregnancy. The cesarean was performed a month early so chemotherapy could begin. Teresa died 2 days after their daughter Ashley was born. The character he played dreamed of being a businessman. The actor became one by getting in a delivery truck and learning the route past the soundstage that had once been his job. 10th on this list is the cast member you have heard the least from in the past 40 years. David W. Harper played Jim Bob Walton, the dreamer, the youngest Walton's son, the boy who wanted to fly airplanes. His non-Walton work across half a century amounts to a small role in the 1982 miniseries The Blue and the Gray and a bit part in Fletch in 1985. His last credit of any kind is the 1997 reunion film A Walton Easter. He briefly worked as a scenic painter. He drove a parcel delivery vehicle for Eric Scott's Chase Messengers. He spent years caring for his ailing father. He has been working on an autobiography for over a decade. As of April 2026, he is 64 and lives privately in Los Angeles. The character he played wanted to fly. The actor lives now in the suburbs of the city where the show was filmed, finishing a memoir that has been in progress longer than the show itself ran. 11 on this list was 6 years old in the pilot. Kami Kotler played Elizabeth Walton, the youngest, the redhead, the freckled little sister. The audience watched her grow from age 6 to 16 on television. What that meant in practice was 10 years of childhood spent on a soundstage. Kotler's parents both worked, so her family hired guardians to accompany her on set. School was 3 hours per day in a trailer outside the soundstage, fitted between shoots. She has said the work itself was not the difficult part. The difficult part was the spring transition back into a normal school. In her words, the harder part was transitioning back to school each spring and having to be cautious about new people. Were they really seeing me as me or just thinking about Elizabeth? When the show ended in 1981, she auditioned for adult roles, found the writing poor and the work joyless, and quit. She enrolled at UC Berkeley, took a degree in social sciences, earned a teaching credential, and founded the Environmental Charter Middle School in Gardena, where she served as first principal. She is 60 now. The audience watched Elizabeth Walton learn to read at the kitchen table. The girl playing her was learning to read in a trailer outside the kitchen table set, in 90-minute slices between takes. The last name on this porch is John Walmsley, who played Jason Walton, the musical brother, the one with the guitar and the quiet sensitivity. Born in Blackburn, Lancashire, England, Walmsley moved to California at age 2. He had voiced Christopher Robin in Disney's Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day in 1968. After the show, his adult acting credits outside the Walton universe were almost non-existent. Casting directors saw Jason. He turned down record label offers to title his debut album something like Live from Walton's Mountain. His exact words to the Jackson Sun in 1979: "I have had a lot of offers from people who are interested in making a fast buck." He built a parallel music career instead, playing as a touring guitarist with Richard Marx, the Doobie Brothers, Merle Haggard, and Roger Daltrey. In the late 2000s, he moved back to England with his second wife, Marion. He now lives in Cornwall, roughly 5,000 miles from the Los Angeles studios where the Goodnight scene was shot. The audience watched Jason Walton play guitar on the porch. The actor moved across an ocean to put the entire Atlantic between himself and that porch. The Waltons is still streaming. Every episode is on Peacock, on Amazon Prime Video, on Apple TV. CBS has been collecting on this for 53 years. The 7 kids who signed those flat-fee child contracts in 1972 saw none of that streaming money. Will Gere is buried in a Shakespeare garden in Topanga. Ellen Corby is buried at Forest Lawn in Glendale. Joe Conley died of dementia in a Thousand Oaks care facility. Ralph Waite, is buried in New York. Michael Learned is 87 and lives in California. Richard Thomas is 74 and on stage in New York. Mary McDonough is 64 and in remission from a disease she has linked to a decision she made because the show told her she was the wrong size. Eric Scott is running a parcel delivery business in Encino. David W. Harper is finishing a memoir in Los Angeles. Kami Kotler runs a charter school in Gardena. John Walmsley moved to England. Good night, John Boy.